Oh, hey there. What's up and welcome to Teaching Tuesday. That's a little preview of coming attractions. So what we are going to discuss today is kind of four-note voicings, but on the fourth, third, second, and first string. And they're going to be kind of like variations on our Essential Chords Series Part 1. So if you missed that, definitely go check it out. But we went over, I think, 6 or 7 chords with a 6-string root, kind of in this G 3rd fret position. So we're going to kind of take a very specific method in terms of like taking those voicings and moving the 6-string root, just taking off that note and then adding a note, a root or some other note onto the first string. So you have now 4-note chords, but with that string combination of 4, 3, 2, 1 instead of 6, 4, 3, 2. So that may sound a little funky, but it'll make sense once we get into it. So, okay, so let's start with voicing number 1. We have our G major 7 right here on the 3rd fret, our very meat and potatoes voicing here. So, yeah, we're going to take this root off. So we're going to take that 6th string off. I've talked about this before, but you do kind of want to be careful in terms of playing low roots when you're playing in a group with a bass player, because you're going to kind of come close to stepping on his toes. You're going to be kind of in his territory, his sonic territory, as I think Ron Carter likes to say. Yeah, okay, so we're going to take this 6-string root off. Okay, so now we're just left with these 3 notes. And that's cool. That's just a B minor triad, but we want to add another note on the first string to make it more colorful. So the most logical thing to do would just take that G and move it an octave up to the first string. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work in just this very particular situation. It will work with most of the other chords, but that's a pretty dissonant chord because we have this minor 9th here. So we don't really want that. So we're going to have an alternative. We're going to take that G and move it up to an A. So that's really nice. It's basically a, B minor 7, but like I've said, a lot of these different chord, like note combinations can be used as a lot of different chords. So that's, you can hear the full chord, but you can just, just those 4 notes, and that's a G major 7. I mean, without the root, you might not hear it, but when you're playing with a band, that's definitely sufficient. That's a good G major 7. It'd be a G major 9, right? Because we have 7th, 3rd, 5th, and 9th. Okay, cool. So now another thing we can do is take out the 5th and move it to a 6th or 13th, and then we kind of have this all 4ths voicing. So some of these you can, also grab with the root, but some of them will actually just be too difficult to do that. And like I said, sometimes you just don't want the root because it can get in the way of the bass frequency. So this is all 4ths, right? We have F sharp, B, E, and A, but it works, right? Over that G major 7 sound. Okay, cool. So let's get to dominant now. So we're going to take that same concept. We're going to kind of ignore this kind of plain Jane G7, and we're going to kind of just do some variations on the 13. I've talked about that before, how just that 1, 3, 5, 7 for a dominant chord is pretty boring. We don't really like to use that in jazz. So we have 1, 7, 3, 13 in this situation. But yeah, we're just replacing the 5th with the 6th, which is also a 13th. Okay, so let's take this root and we're going to eliminate it. It is going to be fired, canceled, however you want to call it. No, well, we're actually going to replace it with the root 2 octaves up. So we're going to take it to the first string like I talked about in the last chord. And that works great. This is like a perfect G13 chord. I use it all the time. It could be super bluesy. You can kind of hammer on that third. And that can add a little grease to it. Or, it doesn't have to be, though. It could also just be, pretty plain. But then, okay, here's our second variation. We're going to take that root and move it to a 9. So we're going to take our G on the first string and move it up to an A. And that gives us this voicing, which is great. I mean, a lot, if you guys are Atomozenius super fans, we have talked about some of these voicings before, but you can use them in a lot of different contexts. So this is great. It's all fourths. I mean, one of them is a tritone, a sharp 4, but it's still got a very fourthy sound, and it works great over a G7 non-altered. Actually, we're gonna skip altered and just save them all for the end. So just don't get too excited just yet. Okay, cool. So that kind of does it for our G, for our dominant chord. Now we're gonna jump to minor 7. Okay, so minor 7. Here's our regular G minor 7. We're gonna do the same method. Take the G from the bass here and move it up to the first string. That gives us this. It sounds like a ukulele, right? That's how the ukulele strings are tuned. So it's cool. It's a little plain, but it works. We can add a little color to it by just taking that G, the root, and moving it to an A. The same thing we did on the last chord. And that's really nice. That gives us a G minor 9. And that's the one I would probably use. That's a nice one. Okay. Cool. So we've done major, dominant, minor 7. Now we're going to do minor. Actually, let me just go in order. So let me just make sure. Yeah, we'll do minor 6. This is going to be the same order as the Essential Chords Series Part 1. So, okay, so minor 6. We're going to do the exact same thing. So it's not rocket science, folks. It's pretty simple. So we're just going to take this G minor 6, and we're going to move the root up 2 octaves from the 6th string to the 1st string. And that gives us this. And that's, I would say, better than the minor 7. It works out nicer in this case. That's a better chord, in my humble opinion. And then, taking the root on the 1st string and taking it to the 9th, A, works great too. So it's the exact same method. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we're gonna do diminished. So we don't really have, actually, Okay, so here's our regular diminished chord that we're working with. This is what we're starting from. So same thing, we're just gonna take that G, move it up to the top, right? So we got just kind of run of the mill. I don't know what key I'm in. Anyways, you know the tricks. You can kind of move this up in minor thirds, and then also you can do the step in between. So whole step, half step, whole step, half step. It's a pattern, diminished. I'm not going to get too into that right now. Okay. Then we can do the same thing here. We can add the 9th, and that's really nice. I love the 9th on a diminished chord. And then we can actually do one more on this one. We can do, we can do the major 7th. So I know that kind of looks like it's just like an F sharp dominant chord, but with the G in the bass, that makes it a G diminished major 7, which is also a great chord. Really like that one. Cool. Okay, and then we are going to do minor 7 flat 5. Okay, so this one, so here's our starting point. G minor 7 flat 5 with the root on the 6th string. And we really only have that one option to just move the root up to the first string. You can add a 9, but first of all, that's not a really natural sound to that chord. The 9 is kind of like an alteration to a minor 7 flat 5. It's not like inherent to its natural sound, if that makes sense, and it's really hard to play. So I think we'll just kind of cut that out. That'll just be our one voicing for that chord. Cool. Okay, so now we're gonna do 6 chords. So G6. Here's our G6. So same method, right? Just take the G, move it up to the top. I'm kind of remembering now when I was in like high school jazz summer camp, this great teacher and player, Tom Hines. I think he showed me exactly what I'm showing you guys right now, and it kind of blew my mind. So I'm hoping it has the same effect on you, but shout out to Tom Hines if you're watching. Anyways, so this is our G6. It sounds like an E minor 7 because it is, but if you have the G in there, you can hear it. I don't really like this one that much because it sounds so much like an E minor 7, and because I've talked about this, I don't really like that 5th if it's too high up from the root to the 5th. So that's pretty high up. I don't love this one, but you can use it. I mean, West, Barney Kessel, all the greats did use it. So, but I'd rather hear just straight 4ths. So we're just gonna take that 3rd, so the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and move it down 2 frets. So it's just all 4ths now. E, A, D, G. And that works too. Okay, now we're gonna slightly alter the tonality of the chord if we add a major 7th, but we can do that, right? So a lot of these I actually like touched upon in a way with the alterations, right? With the like Essential Chord Series Part 2 with the variations, because I talked about how you could add some extensions. But now we're just like taking out the root, so it gives us, like I said, it takes us out of the range of the bass, and it actually makes it a little bit easier to play and frees up your fingers so you can do some things that you couldn't do if you were playing the root. Okay, so this is, that's a nice one. It would be like a G major 6, 9 with the 7. G major 13, let's call it that. Okay. Cool. You know what? I'm realizing I kind of skipped one. So on the G minor 6, you can add a major 7. So here's our G minor 6. We did the root and we did the 9th. We can also have the major 7th in the melody, but it changes the tonality a little bit. A G minor major 7 is different than a G minor 6. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of times where you can use either one, where they're interchangeable, but you got to be careful. So just consult with me before you use this chord. It's dangerous.